It's 7:01, and I see all the members are present, so we will call this meeting of the Wakefield Conservation Commission for April 7th, 2026 to order. First item is roll call. Eleanor,
Present.
Drew,
Present.
Jennifer,
Present.
Barbara. I don't know if we need to hear you or not, Barbara, but I saw your hand go up.
Present. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Great. Okay. So the next item on the agenda obviously will be approval of the minutes for March 24th. And actually March 17th and 24th. Sorry. So Eleanor, I think you had made some recommended some changes to the meeting on the 17th and the minutes there, and I think I saw that those kind of came through from Judy. So any further concerns there?
No, and I didn't
And
have,
no concerns about the second meeting?
no, and I didn't have comments on the 24th.
Okay. All right.
I could use another week on the 24th, but I'm ready to approve the 17th.
Okay. All right. Then we'll take a motion for the 17th for an approval of the minutes for March 17th, 2026. Can I get a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as of March 17th as amended.
Okay, thank you. And a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Barbara and Jennifer,
Yes.
Eleanor,
Yes.
Drew.
Yes.
Okay. I'll vote yes as well. So the minutes of March 17th are approved. Minutes for the 24th yet to come. The only hearing we had on our agenda was DEP 313652 Pack Self-Storage of Wakefield LLC, but that's been continued to our next meeting at the applicant's request. So that will be down the road. So the next item on the agenda is DEP 313377 5 Jessica Lane, a request for a certificate of compliance. And Ethan, do you want to speak to that at all?
Sure. So this house had an order of conditions in 2003 for the construction of an addition, a deck, and then the installation of a dry well. First two were completed, but the dry well was not installed. So
Okay.
they're looking for a complete certificate of compliance today so they could close out the order.
All right. Is there a reason to want the dry well based on your review?
I wouldn't say so. I made a site visit as well just to look at the conditions on the ground.
Mhm.
So it's not common compared to the sites we see today for this to be required. And then I do have some pictures here I can share. But from looking at the site, there didn't seem to be too much effect of not having a dry well in the last 20 years.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to share a few photos of the site that'd be great.
And it would also be helpful to see where the dry well was supposed to go.
Yep.
So
here's the plan.
Mm-hmm.
The addition, the deck, and then the dry well here on the left.
Okay. So it's a rain store infiltration system.
Yep. So we
And
don't usually see that today unless you're in the riverfront area. So this was just in the buffer zone to a BVW.
okay.
What was it, steep? Like, I'm sorry, I had a hard time.
No, the backyard was very flat until you get to the fence back here.
Mm-hmm.
The rest was very flat though, and they have gutters and downspouts going from the roof
onto the level part of the yard.
onto the yard. Yep.
Okay, I see. So that the trees beyond the fence mark the wetland then.
This view there is from the side of the
Okay.
yard.
Okay.
This is also the side of the yard. This is where the dry well would have been.
And what's the distance to the wetland?
That would be probably about 650 feet, 60 feet. The closest point would have been.
To the wetland or yeah, oh, those are wetland
From
flags.
the dry well to the
Okay.
wetland. Yep.
All right. So it would have been in this area where the fence has been stacked up against the house.
Yes.
Did you see
But
any
I
of
didn't see any signs of erosion or any effects of these downspouts.
Yeah, it looks like they're having a problem keeping vegetation alongside the house, but and obviously under the deck, nothing ever survives. I haven't gone back and looked at the order. Does it simply speak to the fact that they were supposed to install one, install a storm drainage infiltration system? Is that all it says, or is there a reason, rationale given, or anything like that?
It doesn't speak to it. It was just included on the plan that was approved.
I see. Okay.
So it's okay on the plan, but not the order of conditions.
Yep.
So it was on the plan attached to the order, but that's about it.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the homeowners are here if they have anything to add and see if they
Okay.
are available.
Sure. And the homeowners are,
Anne Marie and John Stackhouse.
hi,
Hi.
thanks for joining us.
The area where the grass is missing, I had stored a boat there.
Uh-huh.
That's why there's no grass.
Okay, that makes sense. And did you build the deck in the addition then, and just never did the rain store system?
We had the addition built, and the builder left without completion of anything, and that was I had to get Chris Marisola to finish putting the outside of the house together.
Uh,
Yeah, he left with thousands of dollars and never completed any of the work.
okay. And are you seeing any additional drainage from your addition that is causing any problems at the back edge of your property, I guess I would ask?
No, there's no erosion, there's no grass flooding or anything like that. It all just runs off naturally and absorbs into the ground.
Okay. And your yard slopes slightly down towards the wetlands from what I can see in the.
Yes, it slopes slightly backwards towards the wetlands, a little bit to my neighbor's yard. And he was going to try to get on today as well. He could speak to the fact that there's no flooding over in his yard because of any drainage issues.
This is on the left side, the Coleman?
Yeah, the left side.
Okay. And I take it, Ethan, when you were there, you didn't see any evidence of flooding or anything?
No, not at all. Any rain that would have fallen on site would have just fallen in the backyard anyways. So it's not adding anything new.
And there are downspouts from gutters on the addition which just drain to the area under the deck then, is that correct?
There's the one on the right-hand back corner drains straight back. The one on the left side of the house drains out to the left on the flat portion where there's no grass right now.
This area, okay, so this is the one,
This is on the right.
this is on the right, under the deck. Okay, so it drains out onto that area. And we're seeing that one from the other perspective now.
Yep.
Okay,
And then this one's on the left.
and it just simply spills out onto the lawn and,
Yes.
okay,
My neighbor just did sign on to the Zoom if you need to hear from him about any issues on his property.
okay,
His
yeah,
name, his name is Hector Cabrera.
okay,
Hi, can you hear me?
sure.
Yes, I'm the neighbor, I believe to the, if you're facing the house to the left, and when we have major, really severe storms or anything, that we have no flooding whatsoever
You don't, okay.
on
You're
my
not
side.
getting- you're not getting any water over from your neighbor's property into your yard? and
No, none
doesn't cause
whatsoever.
any deterioration of your fence either?
None whatsoever.
Okay. Okay. Questions from other commissioners?
I don't have any questions.
No, John,
Mhm.
Hector, I really appreciate your coming and explaining this.
Thank you.
No
It's
problem.
very
Thank you.
Barbara, Drew, any questions from either of you?
No, it's pretty self-evident
Okay,
what was supplied for our review.
okay.
Yes, pretty self-explanatory.
Okay. I guess we need a motion to authorize a certificate.
Actually, well, a question about that, Paul, is should the certificate say that the drywall was not built?
I believe
Or
it should.
Mhm.
I don't think it does. Or maybe I missed
Typically,
it.
it would just say complete. You can make a note in the file, but it wouldn't be best to make a note on the certificate itself.
I thought we had done that before when somebody didn't complete sort of a significant part of something, that we put it on the certificate of completion. If it's in the file, what does that do? Who is it available to?
That would just be available to whoever's in the office. But the purpose of the certificate of compliance is just to completely close out the project. So it doesn't usually speak to what was done or to what standard it was done. It just certifies that it's complete and closed out.
The order of conditions does include the requirement for a dry well. Correct?
Yep.
Seems like we may want to annotate the file to indicate that we've accepted certificate of compliance without the requirement for the dry well. Because neither you nor I are going to be here when Mr. Stackhouse decides he wants to sell it. May not be here when Mr. Stackhouse wants to sell his house. And that could add some complexity since at least the order is recorded on the deed
Mhm.
title. So
I agree with that.
I think we need language in the order or in the certificate that indicates that we've accepted the certificate without the requirement for the dry well. So I guess I'd ask that you prepare a certificate specific noting that.
Yep. Yeah, that certificate gets recorded on the deed as well.
Right.
So that part's pretty accessible.
Yeah. But I think that way it's clear that we've accepted this without the requirement for the dry well being met.
I
Based
think
on-
that's in the,
Go
sorry,
ahead. Go ahead.
I do think that's in the best interest of the homeowner.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd rather we're on the side of having a few extra words there. So
I think you can say the condition for the dry well, like whatever the condition number was omitted with commission approval.
yeah, that's a simple way to deal with it.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. If you can take care of that, I think we can authorize you to issue it then. So we need a motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 5 Jessica Lane, noting the condition for the dry well is omitted with approval.
I'll
Okay.
second that motion.
Thanks, Drew. All in favor? Drew,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Eleanor,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, Mr. Stackhouse, you're settled with us. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night.
Next item on the agenda is setting dates for site visits. 129 Oak Street, 200 Water Street, and 465 Water Street. Okay. Ethan, you're going to have to refresh our memories on all of these.
Sure. So I think Brian McGrail is here to speak on those. Not sure if you want to start, Brian, just to give us some background on these sites.
Yeah,
All right.
I can
Brian?
do that if you'd like, Mr. Chair.
Sure, go right ahead.
So 129 Oak it goes back that the Conservation Commission ordered some reconciliation on alleged fill on the site. And in the winter, I met with you on this briefly and discussed that we thought it would be good to start with a site visit.
Mhm.
Property owners want to get this resolved, but to describe it, show pictures is not the same as you seeing it before we have a discussion on it. The commission agreed at that time. We stated that we would wait till the spring to set up a site visit. And that's why it's on the agenda tonight to set up that site visit.
Okay,
And then I think once there's a site visit, we will reconvene at a meeting to discuss proper avenues from there.
okay, that sounds reasonable.
Do you want me to explain all of them? Because they might
Might as
go,
well deal with all of them and then we'll figure
yeah,
out.
then you can
how
discuss.
this
And
works
and
on
then
calendar.
the Water Street is, that's where Keith's Tree operates.
Right, that's 465 water.
Yeah, correct. And I had a site visit there with Elaine Vreeland, Jim Luciani at the time when he was chair of the commission, also viewed the site. We want to install, or the occupant wants to install some blocks to, I guess for lack of a better way of saying, a protective riverfront for the long term. So we wanted to go over the commission with that. Elaine thought there might be a possibility that we need to have a filing to do that. We don't think we need a filing. So we will request that the commission come out to view that site. And again, we can reconvene and have a discussion on the necessity of a filing after that for the work that we want to do.
You said Elaine has already visited the site?
Elaine has been there at least once, maybe twice.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you been to the site?
I've not been to this one. I think the last site visit was about a year ago, but I've been to 129 Oak a few times.
Okay,
And the final one, Mr. Chair, on Water Street is Cataldo Ambulance.
right,
And the commission issued a certificate of compliance on this. But the order of conditions has an ongoing requirement for invasive species mitigation plan.
right.
And the owner is committed to carrying that out and
Mhm.
thought it would be a good idea to have a site visit to discuss parameters of that. before work is undertaken.
I remember that site having a rather extensive set of invasives in the back.
Correct,
Once you go across that little concrete bridge.
correct. So that's the purpose of that site visit.
Okay, so do you think we can do all three of these in one Saturday morning?
Yeah, I hope so. I don't want to take up 2 Saturday mornings.
Yeah, I would agree with you. My preference as well.
And it's also up to the commission if you wanted to do it, it's light out now until 7:30, whatever works for you.
That's true. I mean, we could do it. Some of our folks work in Boston though, and that's the challenge.
Sure, whatever's more convenient for the commission.
I will ask Eleanor and Jennifer because I know you guys work in Boston. Drew, are you local or do you work in the city in Boston as well?
I work in Stoneham. I do work Saturdays currently, but
Okay.
I believe I could make something work.
Well, would an evening, and Barbara, I don't know your situation. Are you also employed?
I retired a year ago from a 48-year career.
Okay, good for you. Jennifer and Eleanor and Drew, then I guess I'd ask you guys, what works for you all in terms of, could an evening meeting, say at 6:30 work to get out to I'm not sure we can manage all three and before it gets dark. But
For me, it depends on the day of the week, but most days I could do it, but I'll check by date if we start to narrow down dates.
Eleanor, your thoughts?
Weekends are better for me, but I could make a Friday evening work after 5.
Okay.
I could do
Yeah.
Friday evening. Sorry, Eleanor.
How early would we begin on a Saturday, for example?
Typically, we've started around 9.
And it would take a
We don't.
couple
We
hours.
normally schedule no more than a half an hour per site. So we do 30 minutes, get to the next site, maybe give ourselves 15 minutes to get there, so that all in all, we'd eat up about 2 hours of your Saturday morning, which might work out reasonably if depending on Drew's schedule, the weekend.
Yeah, I could do a Friday afternoon or a Saturday morning at 9. That does work actually before I go in for the day.
Okay. I know Eleanor's preference would be Saturday, so
I could do Friday or Saturday.
okay. Your clients, Brian, are they indifferent on this? Are they likely to not be present?
I think whatever works for the commission.
Okay.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, Paul, I could do this Friday, but I couldn't do the following Friday. But I could do Saturday mornings.
This Saturday morning would work for you as well?
This Saturday morning, but not the following.
All right.
I think this weekend's tough if we're gonna either do a Friday or Saturday, if it could be not this weekend, but the following weekend.
Okay. So this Friday doesn't work for you either, Brian? Is that what you're?
We could make it work. I'd rather push it, but if this Friday is Jen, you said
Not like
Friday.
these are holding up any actions
No.
at this point. It's strictly a matter of getting the certificates taken care of. So
Jennifer says she could do this Friday, but not the following Friday.
Yeah, I could do this Friday or Saturday, but not the following Friday or Saturday.
We could make this, if this Friday would work, we'll make that work, whatever's, again.
Or I could do a different day of the week, like Monday evening or yeah, even actually tomorrow or even Thursday. Or next week, probably Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday.
okay.
Might be easier just to grab a Saturday morning where that works for Eleanor.
Yeah, just looking at this weekend.
Quick question. This is Erin. Do you need Ethan at these visits too?
Generally, he does not join us on these site walks.
Okay.
He can do them separately from us. most of the time we do our site visits, just the commissioners with the applicant or Brian or another representative from an engineer.
Would a week from Saturday work, perhaps, the 25th?
Let's see.
Can make that work.
That's 2 weeks from
Yeah, I
Saturday.
was gonna say not, the 18th is next Saturday.
Oh, thank you. I apologize. Yeah, the 18th.
Jennifer's away.
I run.
Actually,
Oh, the
conflict-
25th, the
oh,
25th works, whatever.
yeah, I could do the 25th.
The 25th would be okay for me as well. I have a conflict on the previous weekend too, so let's look at the 25th.
Okay.
25th works for me as well.
Okay.
Works for me.
Okay. Well, why don't we plan for the 3 site visits on the Saturday, the 25th? We'll start at 9 and
Start at Oak Street, work our way back.
yeah, probably makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And if we can get sort of background info on that, I don't know if there were enforcement orders or something, just to give us a little bit of history once we see it.
Yep, I've got info I'll send along for each site.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess we're on for Saturday morning, the 25th at 9 for the first visit, and then we'll just do the 9:45, 10:30.
Great, thank you.
Sound reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. Good enough. All right. Next is communication from the town administrator, and this is related to our budgetary issues, folks. We have overspent our budget for Judy's time because we've held a substantial number of additional meetings which require Judy's time, and she is an hourly employee, so we've overspent on the money we had available for that work. I see that Liz Rourke is here. She's the town accountant. Liz, do you want to speak to this at all?
Sure. Good evening, folks. So for the FY26 Conservation Commission budget and appropriation, $4,800 was appropriated for the meeting recording, secretary. And we have overspent that already. And we still have about 7 weeks left in the fiscal year. So I will be needing to go to the Finance Committee for a reserve fund transfer to take care of the shortfall. So we kind of just need to get a handle on how many more meetings we're going to have with the remaining weeks in this fiscal year. As I will need to update the Finance Committee so I can get an accurate dollar amount for a reserve fund transfer.
We typically have 2 meetings a month. It is April.
That hasn't been the trend, so
Yeah, no, we've been having more than 2 because we've been working on the wetlands bylaw. It sounds like we're going to have to pull that back and try to do that within the bounds of the meeting, the regularly scheduled meetings where we can. I think, Eleanor, did you want to speak to that?
I just had questions when you finish.
Okay. I mean, it strikes me that the simplest solution would be for us to try to, given that tonight, for example, we could be moving on to the wetlands bylaw now. It's certainly possible that we could get an hour to an hour and a half of work on that done. And I think we're pretty close to done with the initial drafting. The one thing we will need, Liz, is at some point, either in this fiscal year or in the summer, which I guess is the next fiscal year, we're going to need a couple extra public meetings to introduce this wetlands bylaw to the broader public. we don't have to do those necessarily before July, which is the new fiscal year.
But again, with the new fiscal year starting, again, only 2 meetings a month have been budgeted. So if over the summer months you're going to do more, and then after fall town meeting you won't have 2 meetings a month, somehow we can, if you can figure that out, or I'll let the town administrator chime in of how, possibly you guys can get this done within the budgeted amount. We do have some budget constraints for FY27.
So can I just ask a couple of questions? And hi, Liz, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Eleanor.
First of all, in the past, I guess I'd understood, the staff is compensated hourly, so it would be the length of the meetings versus the number of the meetings?
No, that's not how it is. Not for the recording secretary, the meeting secretary. It's 200 per meeting, and 2 meetings are budgeted per month for a total of $4,800.
Okay.
And that's a line item in the conservation budget that gets approved by the Conservation Commission.
Okay, well, when we get the budget to approve, we just see personnel services as one rolled up.
It's actually it's on the last page where personnel is detailed out.
Okay. So I guess I missed that in the PDF. Let me ask you, we were told, so sorry, just going back, because there is the clerk agreement that's on the posted website for what was negotiated with the union says all the meetings are compensated based on hours. So I was just curious where the flat fee comes from.
I'm not sure, but they are flat. So I'm not sure what agreement you're looking at. Is it under the HRs?
Hi, it's Dee Casey, Town Administrator. So this isn't referenced in the collective bargaining agreement.
Okay.
So you wouldn't find it there. So I'm not sure where you found that meetings were covered per hour, but it's not in the collective bargaining agreement. There is a separate signed agreement that pays these employees per meeting $200 regardless of the length of the meeting. Okay. And as Judy is an accounting employee and not a conservation employee, she cannot do this during her normal workday. It has to be done on off hours.
Okay.
So again, if you need more meetings in the fall, that is probably something should have been raised during the budget process, because now, as Liz said, if you have meetings, over the summer to get ready for the fall town meeting, that's going to affect the number of meetings that you can have moving forward to next June 30. And the finance committee meeting is next Thursday. So we need a definitive number of meetings that you will have through June 30.
So forgive me, Dee. So when we reviewed the budget, I think in February, we were told there was going to be substantial savings on the conservation agent line item. So is that something that can offset, overruns on another line item? Because typically in years past, we've managed things in total, and there've certainly been years, like, for example, when we didn't have a conservation agent, Judy stepped in and was definitely covering more than her allotted hours.
That's a different situation in that regard, where there is a conservation agent and there's also the part-time other conservation employee. So those are included in that regular salary line item.
So you're saying you can't use favorability in regular salary to offset unfavorability in the clerk line item?
I will look into that, and see if what the run out rate will be. And also I will confer with the finance committee because they weigh in on that as well.
Okay.
But we only have budgeted $4,800. So even though it was in error that the salary line for the conservation agent was over budgeted, and I was not part of that, so I don't know why it was over budgeted, but the meeting allotment was for 24 meetings at $200 a meeting. So that is what was approved at town meeting.
Which town meeting?
For
Because,
the current fiscal year.
In FY26, yes.
okay,
That's what I'm speaking about.
okay, I'll go
So
back.
in May of 2025, the FY26 budget was approved, and it was approved with 24 meetings at $200 a meeting for $4,800 a year. And that is all that is going forth for FY27 as well.
Okay, I'll go back and look. I just don't remember that. In years past, I thought we just got one big number. Okay, so my second question is, we haven't spent any consulting dollars yet. So can we use those savings? Typically, we have consultant funds, and we're supposed to be doing educational things for the commission, speaker series, and we have not done that in 2 years. So there should be savings on the consultant line that could offset.
I'm not sure. You have some purchase of service line items. You have advertising, which is overspent by $20. You have printing and binding. You have postage. You have travel within the Commonwealth. You have office supplies, and you have other charges, which is dues and memberships, which has $45 available. So I don't know what consultant money. I don't have any professional service line item here. So I don't know what you're referring to.
Oh, okay, I can go back to budget. It's just, this is the first time in speaking to the former chair. We've never heard from the town on managing the budget like this. Typically, money has been found to cover prior year overruns. Because we're a permitting board, sometimes we have to have additional meetings to meet the 21-day requirement that applicants have to do. And for instance, in years past, we had really lengthy, this was before my time, but lengthy meetings and additional meetings.
And that needs to be communicated to the administration if that's going to happen. And there has been no communication from this commission that there is an overrun of meetings for FY26. So that is something that needs to, be worked on, the communication for sure.
Okay, I appreciate that, because I think our communication could be better, because we've been told we're not supposed to ask about personnel matters.
That's not what I'm not referring to personnel matters. It would be if you're going to have more meetings and you know that only 24 meetings is budgeted within a fiscal year, then you would need to let us know that there's a potential overrun. That's what I'm referring to.
Excuse me, I'm talking. Did any other member know that there was only 24 meetings budgeted?
Yes, it was mentioned at the budget hearings, both at town council and at the finance committee.
Were we invited to the finance committee meeting?
The chair of this commission was at the finance committee and the town council meeting, and they are public meetings.
Okay, I just wanted to also address one more thing. One challenge that this conservation commission has had is that with only 3 members, like in the past, you could have 2 people work on something outside of a meeting. So I think in this year, with the sudden departure of the former chair, everything we did had to be in public. I think with 5 members, that should make things a little bit easier to, sort of not have to put so much in a meeting. So I think that we were typically facing a constraint that no other, very few other boards have had to deal with.
This isn't a commentary on your meetings. It's more of a budgetary matter that we just need to look at. And again, next year we have budgeted true to salary. So if we need additional meetings next year, there isn't going to be any extra, funding hanging around. And Liz and I have a different approach than the prior administration. So I think that we have set different rules and criteria, and we're trying to communicate that as best as we can back to our boards and committees, that when you budget for a certain number of meetings and you have an employee that is in a collective bargaining agreement, having a Saturday meeting has impact. So we just would like the commission to think about that when they're scheduling their meetings.
Are there certain meetings that Judy can opt out of? Like, obviously, we like having her be chair, but if she prefers not to meet twice in a week if needed, does she have the ability to elect not to
Bargaining
do
unit
it?
work. So if you're not familiar with dealing with unions, so bargaining unit work cannot be given to anyone else. And in the history that Judy has been servicing this board, which I believe is over 20 years, they have never had anyone other than the recording secretary do the work. So if you or someone else were to do it, that would be grounds for a grievance that she could file with her union.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. So right now our overage, you're projecting 1,600, or like based on the number of meetings, or how much are you projecting for Judy?
That will depend on how many more meetings that you'll have. I think we're 400 over, Liz, right now.
And tonight would make 6.
So it's 600 effective today. So how many of you would have in April and May?
We still have 5 meetings, which would put us over by another $1,000 if we're at 200 a meeting.
Okay. Do you think we need to build in one more meeting to be on the safe side? Because I really would prefer not to have to go back to the finance committee to say, oops, we underestimated by 1 meeting.
I'll ask my colleagues whether they think we're going to want an extra meeting between now and the end of June, or whether we can be reasonably firm that we have enough funds available, enough time available to finish what we need to do in this fiscal year on the bylaw without an additional meeting. What you're thinking, folks?
For $200, I would just ask for the additional meeting.
Okay. I think we're going to want to add at least 2 public meetings to next year, to the fiscal year 27, for public information sessions on the bylaw. Were you envisioning more than that, Jennifer, in your expectation?
I think that we could do 2 and, have it be on our agenda and invite comments in different ways and address some in our regular meetings as well.
Yeah, and actually, the town council, Tom Mullen, had recommended that we do more outreach, going to other, as opposed to hosting a meeting, going to other boards and committees to educate people about the bylaw.
Okay, but do we need to have Judy present at those kinds of meetings?
No.
If we're going to planning board or whatever, I'm presuming we're doing their regular meetings.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just because I'm new and don't understand everything quite yet, you don't anticipate going through the review process with the bylaws and coming up with the final draft before 27?
We will probably take up the bylaw in our regular, if what we're having tonight on the agenda is what we can expect to have going forward, I would expect we would be able to use our regularly scheduled meetings for review and completion of the edits to the bylaw. I believe that Eleanor had suggested she and Jennifer could spend a meeting separately from this to complete a markup that we had mostly completed in previous meetings, extra meetings. Am I right about that?
Yeah, we've met between the last meeting and tonight's meeting, and it might be good for us to meet one more time, but I do have comments, basically outstanding comments to share tonight.
Okay. We should probably talk through those after we get through this. So. Aaron, you have your hand up.
Yeah, no, I just through the planning board and having a number of info sessions with them on, different bylaws and ADUs, I always found that we would just do them during our regular meeting and just have them be the like number first thing on the agenda if we didn't have public hearings, just so if you want to be mindful of your budget for the upcoming fiscal year, that might be a route that you could approach by just doing it during your normal meetings if you, I don't know, just an idea, and then maybe you can push some things to different meetings.
Actually, Erin, thank you for that suggestion. That's a great suggestion. I was actually curious how you guys managed it on the planning board when you did the 3A hearings, and I feel like you guys were doing a lot of extra work for that. Like, what was sort
So,
of policy
yeah,
there?
that was just a subcommittee that we didn't have a clerk for. So, I was a staff member, and so I did the work for that. But we did a lot of those meetings actually during planning board meetings because it was something that grew out of the planning board, but it was a separate subcommittee. So we did all those info sessions, I believe. We may have had a few other ones other times, but we didn't have a clerk. But I believe most of them were done during normal planning board meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, we could adopt that strategy here, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can also start with a public meeting on the bylaw and then move on to hearings if you wanted to, as long as you kind of keep it to a certain length.
Yeah.
And if I recall, sorry, just we were conscious on time and saying we'll have another info session in 2 weeks if there was a lot of questions and stuff.
Yeah, I have a feeling we'll get a fair amount of questions about the bylaw. So
Yep.
I would still suggest that we budget for at least one extra meeting in the next fiscal year. The balance of this year, I think we're going to have to live with what we have on the schedule, which is another 5 meetings after tonight. At least that's what's scheduled, if I'm correct. May, June, yes, and one more in April. So
Do we want to add just an extra one to be safe? I guess to Dee's point that she doesn't have to
I'm fine. I
grab
mean,
over
if
$200.
D isn't concerned about the extra $200, I would say, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I agree.
think we can swing it in the finance committee reserve fund, yes.
Okay. And I think we probably would want to look at one or two in the next fiscal year just to cover ourselves for public information sessions that we may have to hold independently, separate from these meetings. I mean, I think Aaron's strategy makes sense. If we can do that, for the most part, that could avoid some extra time too from our commitments. And frankly, this bylaw is eating an awful lot of time. So I'd endorse trying to keep it within the boundaries of these meetings while not making these meetings end at midnight like we've done in the past. Ron, when I see your hand up.
Yes, good evening. For the record, Bronwyn Delavolpe, 8 Cyrus Street. Thank you very much for the information. I have never known the Finance Committee to really have an issue if there's, an overage. Snow and ice goes over almost every year. We have to fix that. So, this pretty much is a drop in the bucket in the budget, although I understand it does all add up. But this is in the big picture of things, a very, very tiny amount. So I agree that I think that you should plan on, I would recommend more than one extra meeting, and that perhaps someone could answer that if you don't use that money that's budgeted for the clerk, that it could be returned to whatever fund or moved forward to the next fiscal year. Is a clerk necessary during the bylaw meetings, considering that those meetings are recorded?
It's part of the agreement that the town has had with these boards and commissions that they will be supported by a clerk.
Okay, I'm sorry, what does that mean exactly? Supported in what way?
That this person is the person that is responsible for posting the meeting as well as creating the minutes of the meeting.
Okay, but posting the meeting and taking the minutes is that's two different things. So could there be a you know, $50 or whatever for posting a meeting? And then, particularly with this bylaw, it's been time consuming as bylaws are. If they're done correctly, they take up a lot of time. And I followed this issue all along, and this board has been meticulous in its fashioning of this bylaw and language and so on and so forth. So it is very time consuming necessarily. So I'm just trying to think of a way to work around this so that this board isn't overly constrained, considering its mission and its responsibilities that pretty much affect so much of the town.
So I think if you were to look at the fact that this position pays $200 per meeting, whether the meeting goes an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, or if it's on a Wednesday, a Tuesday, or a Saturday, I think that you're getting your fair share of staff work out of Judy, and she does an outstanding job.
Oh, well, that wasn't in question, but my question was, I would recommend to this board to ask for maybe more than one extra meeting for the next fiscal year in your planning, just to be sure. And then if there's money left over, I'm sure the town would find a use for that money or move it towards the Conservation Commission budget for the subsequent fiscal year. I was just trying to think of a way to be frugal. So that during exceptional meetings such as the bylaw review, that a clerk may not be necessary. I mean, to post the meetings, yes, but since it's recorded, maybe minutes aren't needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Minutes are required under Mass General Law to be posted. So yes, but I appreciate your out of the box thinking.
Dee, could we look to, I think we're going to need to deal with this year's overage already.
Correct. The Finance Committee meeting is next week, so we'd like to get this done.
I'm not sure we're going to need. Eleanor, were you suggesting we should add one more meeting so we would have 6 more potentially for the balance of this year? Is that what you were suggesting?
I was suggesting it just to be on the safe side and honestly moving into next year, maybe it's too late, but we really should be planning one extra meeting or at least 2 extra meetings a year. There's always some issue with timing of a project and you have to have an additional meeting to approve something or with a conflict with town meeting. I think we typically take we drop a meeting in the summer sometimes when it's slow, or we've done that in the past.
Right.
But again, it just.
Well, and I guess what I would suggest is we look at 2 incremental meetings for the balance of this year and 2 additional meetings for the next fiscal year that would be prior to town meeting. And if we don't hold them both, then those funds would disappear.
Paul, are you saying we just have one meeting in May and June?
No, I'm suggesting we would have 2 additional meetings above what we already have scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
We now have 5 more meetings this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to require $1,000.
Right.
2 additional meetings would add another $400 to that.
Okay.
I'm not sure we need 2 more meetings beyond the 5 we have coming up. But in the interests of avoiding Dee having to go back and ask for more, the simplest thing would be to say 2 more meetings this fiscal year, 2 additional meetings next fiscal year. on top of what's already on our schedule, which is 5 meetings more this fiscal year.
Okay.
So this fiscal year is going to have a more substantial overrun because I think we've already run through 6 extra meetings worth of funds. I think we're 1,200 over. Am I correct about that, Liz?
As of right now,
Yes,
no, you're not 1,200 over. After tonight, it's 600 over.
600 over. All right. So we'd have 600 over plus the 5 additional meetings. So we'd end up this year with a budget problem of $1,600. We do
if
no
we hold,
additional meetings.
Mhm.
Just do our regularly scheduled twice a month meetings.
I'm sorry, if you hold 7 more meetings, that's 1,400, you're already 600, so it would be 2,000. And again, I'm fine with going back to the finance committee because I think we can justify it that you've been working on the bylaw, which requires extra meetings.
Right.
So I'm not concerned with the rationale. I just want to make sure that we get the number right so that we're getting you enough staff resources that you need.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think in that case, if you don't have an issue, I would say let's take it at 2,000 for the balance of this fiscal year. And for next fiscal year, we ask for an incremental budget for 2 more meetings for public information sessions. Unless folks think we need more public information sessions than that, where we're going to have a clerk present.
I think especially if we can use this option of doing some public information sessions like the planning board did with a subcommittee without a clerk, I think that should provide us with some buffer as well.
All right, and we can also do them during these meetings if we schedule them in advance, put them in the agenda as part of the regular bi-weekly, twice a month meetings.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't really clear. The subcommittee, it was something created out of town council and the planning. It was something totally separate kind of from the planning board. So there wasn't a designated clerk like you guys have with Judy. So that's why I was recommending you just do it during your normal meetings.
I mean, yeah, and it seems to me we can do that. I would suggest we may need 2 more meetings in the course of the next fiscal year just to have the buffer.
And again, we'll have to revisit that because the council has voted on your budget for next year for the 4,800. So that's something we can worry about next year.
Okay.
But again,
That's
if you
fine.
have to
And
have
if we
more-
don't need to do it, solves our problem.
Exactly. And if you have to have more meetings, again, I think we have a solid justification in that you are working on a substantial bylaw and it's going to require more meetings than you anticipated.
Okay, thanks. All right, then we're basically just asking for the additional funds for the balance of this fiscal year at this point from the finance committee.
Okay. Sorry, can I ask one more question that we brought up at the February 17th meeting, or not 17th, whenever we spoke about the budget, is can we get a check on the filing, like the wetlands filing fees? Because I think in the budget that we got, it showed that it was exactly halfway to the full.
Are you asking how much revenue has been brought in for the wetlands filing fees
Yes,
or
yes, the actuals.
off? Okay, so what you see on the budget sheet
Mm-hmm.
is that each year it has been consistent that there is an offset of $4,500 of wetland filing fees. So halfway through the year, half of it is transferred in, and then at the end of the fiscal year, the other half is transferred in. So that's what that represents. That doesn't represent the total of wetlands filing fees that could have been, received through 12/31. That is just the amount that gets appropriated to offset the Conservation Commission budget annually.
Okay. Can we get an accounting of the wetlands filing fees?
Absolutely. Yep. I will make sure that you guys receive a copy of that.
That would be fantastic because I think we use that to offset, implementing sort of implementing the regs and supporting the wetlands protection in general. But we can.
Yeah.
Well, I think
I don't
what I'd
believe
ask,
that
though,
it's
before Liz, I'm assuming that the balance of the filing fees that are received go into the town's general fund. They're not segregated.
the wetlands filing fees are segregated.
Okay.
However, I don't believe that the balance is very high. So if you just give me a moment, I can take a look real quick and let you know.
Okay. You can get back to us later, but thank you.
At present, there is only $3,500.
In the wetlands filing fee fund.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And does it accumulate, or do you like each year, or?
Yes, it's a multi-year fund, so it's not an annual appropriation fund like the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
And if at any point in time that you want to see any of the financial printouts, please just let us know. We'd be happy to send it over to you.
No, that's helpful. It seems like we probably want to do a check-in or something earlier in the process to know where we're at and kind of get ahead of this type of thing moving forward.
I think
Absolutely.
There's four of us, there's 4 staff people on the call, so I always make budget notes about things to think about for the next fiscal year. So this will go on conservation to make sure that we put in extra meetings for, different things that you might have that come up during the year that require more than 2 meetings a month.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think what we're in agreement on is at this point, we'll ask Dee to request the additional funds for the meetings that we have regularly scheduled, which is another 5 meetings, plus what we're carrying in terms of a deficit that we've already run up. And we're thinking about one additional meeting beyond that, then? Is that the increment? So we're looking at 6 more meetings this fiscal year?
I think so in reality. I don't know what other people's schedules are.
I have in my notes 7 for a total of 2,000.
Okay, then let's do that, Dee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will do. Thank you,
Thanks.
guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you guys for explaining that to us. And
Thank you.
taking-
Thanks for taking the time tonight.
Welcome to municipal budgeting and collective bargaining 101.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
you're
learned
getting
something
a
new.
lesson quickly.
Every day, every single day.
All right. Okay. I think we can move on to our next item. Unless there's something more on the budget questions from anyone. All right, then the next item is the wetlands bylaw. And I guess I'm going to suggest, Jennifer, I'll turn it over to you for what you have to present to us.
Okay, all right, and I'll share my screen. So in our last regular meeting, we talked about having Eleanor and I work as a subcommittee on making some of the outstanding edits and responding to comments, which we did in the last couple of weeks. And I also made some additional just kind of responding to outstanding comments. So I can go through and show some changes, how some comments have been addressed. I can send, I do think it would be, I do think Eleanor and I need to meet again to make sort of final changes and also, finalize regulations before bringing them back to the committee. But I can send this to the committee so that the commission, so that you can, just have time to, look over this. Okay. So, changes are shown in track changes. So, we made section 2 jurisdiction and activities subject to regulation. We have a comment here about intermittent streams. Okay, actually, okay, that's further on. But there was a comment from, I believe this is from Ethan, about intermittent streams and using consistent definitions with the WPA. I did a comparison a while back, comparing side to side about 9 communities near Wakefield and similar to Wakefield that have bylaws. Most of them, 8 out of the 9, use the term intermittent stream as opposed to land under, intermittent stream. So I think this is consistent with what other bylaws are doing. I think one issue that we haven't, I don't think we've landed on, and is probably a commission decision, has to do with, a size limit on an isolated wetland. Okay. Let's see.
Jennifer, what have you found in
Yeah.
other towns' bylaws in that?
I've been referencing, a presentation by, I think it's Newberry. I'd have to look it up again because I don't want to go from memory, but, there's a range with a small number having no size limit and most doing, I want to say off the top of my head, 1,000 feet. But we have talked about this before, and I think we thought that sounded pretty large, especially for Wakefield.
In
1,000 square
the
feet.
size of properties in the town, 1,000 square feet is,
Yeah, that's large.
yeah, it's a substantial piece of.
Yeah. So that's one of the, I think, biggest outstanding, questions for the commission in finalizing it is that. Okay, we've gone back and forth on this, whether we will, try to regulate pesticides, herbicides. We went back and forth in the last meeting. We also talked about this in our meeting. I actually don't think that we're allowed to regulate, more than the state does on private property. I saw a source on that, a meeting in Belmont that said that, so I'm pretty sure we can't.
So we can't regulate the application of pesticides or herbicides
On private property more than the state does.
Okay. And the state,
Uh,
what does the state say? Does it
I'd have to track down the particular law, but this was at a public meeting that was on it was on a, I'm gonna forget the name of it, but, it was on a public meeting to essentially seek an override of that. It required a town vote to override on this issue, so. Eleanor, you were gonna say something about this?
Well, we do have like restrictions, I think, on our orders of conditions, don't we? Sometimes, like, we say no pesticide, herbicide use within 50 feet of a wetland.
Yeah, well, I can, we can do some more looking into this one.
But maybe that's better to not put it part of the bylaw and it's just a regular part of our order of conditions. Don't know.
Okay. All right. Okay, this is the question of size of an isolated wetland. Okay. We spent time on the definitions for vernal pool and vernal pool habitat. I think the suggestion came from Bill Renaud to break these apart. So, defining a vernal pool and then defining a vernal pool habitat. So we spent time on this language. It's consistent with the way that we've been talking about vernal pool and habitat in the meetings. We do say here that the vernal pool habitat will include the vernal pool itself, which does simplify the language later on in the rest of the bylaw. I added a term here to definitions: wetland resource area. so for example, the 25-foot no disturb zone is relative to the the boundary of the wetland, not resource areas in general. And this gets at Bill's kind of frequent feedback that he doesn't want us accidentally creating buffers around buffers. So anyway,
So
so
essentially, this excludes areas that are identified as buffer areas.
right.
So
Yeah.
the 25-foot buffer is buffer. It's not part of the resource, which
Well,
is
it is a resource area, but it's not a wetland resource area.
right. Okay. Yep.
Okay. And I'll send this around so you can look more closely at the language for that.
And
Okay.
you move all the vernal pool discussion below, up above.
Well, in the most recent draft that we got back, I think it had proposals for a vernal pool that included multiple, I think from Bill, I think Ethan added one too. So these are just the extras.
Okay.
These are different definitions of the same terms. Okay. So one, when we got back Bill's comments, we actually had the presumption of the vernal pool habitat removed from it, and we talked about adding this back in. So this was our previous language from our previous, draft. I put this in the definition section. But this is language we've already spent time on previously on the presumption of the vernal pool habitat. Much of it comes from, the MAC model bylaw.
So this is all definition section at this point.
Yeah, this is still definition section.
Okay. I think that makes sense as a place to put it.
Okay. There's a couple of things that I do want to do a little more looking into, the emergency or the language around emergencies, just citing this section of the Wetlands Protection Act. And, I just want to go back and look at that, I think some more. Okay. So I changed for project exemptions, I changed this to public project exemptions to identify these as the exemptions that DPW would be, primarily using for most of their work. I thought we've had some discussion about, when there's when an applicant comes before us before an NOI or even an RDA, and is seeking kind of feedback, who approves it. And so my thought was, this is something we might put in the regulations. So the commission could update it based on what, they need or what makes sense at the time, and take this distinction as determined by the commission or agent out of the bylaw and put it into the regulations. Okay, so
Probably
Bill,
want a comma before that word or, though, don't you, Jennifer?
okay.
Because that your thought as I'm reading this is following, provided notice has been given to the commission prior, there is no alteration of the resource area. And erosion and sedimentation controls are used as needed. Is that or as determined by the commission or agent of the commission apply to what? What is that modifying? What are we saying there? The commission and the agent of commission determine the need for erosion and sedimentation controls, or commission and agent determine whether it meets one of the three criteria below?
I think that this is getting at if something is clearly exempt, it doesn't have to come before the commission at all. But when there's a question, that's when people come before us. But sometimes, not with a full NOI or even sometimes not with an RDA. And so when somebody comes to us with a question, like they're not sure if they're sure the exemption applies, then I don't think they would need to come to anyone. But if there's uncertainty, who does that question go to? And that we actually did have some discussion about this last time, landing on this language. But, I again, my suggestion is that this might be something that we put in the regulation so the commission can update it as makes sense too.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say something like an erosion and sedimentation controls are used as required, or and then you delete the rest, or I don't know. I was just trying to think of a way to make it easier.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to come out. This, I think, I mean, what I'm suggesting is that this last clause here will come out of this and go
Okay.
into the regulations.
Okay.
As far as needed, you know, the exemptions listed here are essentially a paraphrasing of what's in the WPA. So if we want people to strictly go by what's in the WPA, we probably just need to point them to the WPA and say, follow those. So as required, and I assume as required would be as required by the WPA. Right?
Okay. So yeah, used as required under the WPA.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then this will come out.
Okay.
Okay. So one of Bill's questions was, can DPW get an exemption to, for example, upsize a water main? And so this is why I sent that table around, showing essentially what the WPA says about exemptions in resource area and buffer zone. So I think the answer to this is that if it needs to be, if it's under the WPA, if it's not going to be substantially changed or enlarged, then it is an exemption. If it needs to be substantially changed or enlarged, it could be an exemption if the work, essentially if the work is done within the road area and doesn't go past the existing road, shoulder, existing driveway.
So essentially, if it's in the disturbed areas or previously existing
Exactly.
disturbed areas.
Yeah, so Bill's question here would be, can they do it within the roadway? And I think if they could do it within the roadway without moving beyond the existing roadway, then they'd get the exemption. If it was so large that they needed to work beyond that, they would not have an exemption.
Okay, then I guess I'm going to ask, what does that clause at the beginning mean? Within wetland resource areas.
Meaning within, again, the resource areas that are wetlands, so not buffer
So it
zones.
basically is the area under a road considered to be within the resource area?
Well, I
I mean,
mean, a
I'm
road would be.
not trying to play devil's advocate. I just don't know.
Mhm.
Aren't the resource areas like riverfront, you know, bordering vegetated wetland,
Yeah.
land
Yeah, I
subject
guess
to
I'll
flood?
ask Ethan if he has, I mean, is a road that passes through a wetland, for example,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Because technically the road is within the resource, but in this case, it would just mean the resource itself. So the road wouldn't be.
so I mean, I guess what I'm just trying to get at is maintenance, et cetera, of essentially public utility services, let's call them that for purposes of conversation. Is so that's exempt if it's done within an existing resource area and you're not changing or enlarging it. Okay, I guess I can accept that as it's Language is still a little bit challenging, but let's live with it.
If that's the case, do they still have to follow any of the rules? Are they completely exempted so they could do within, not extremely changing or upsizing it, can they at their discretion do whatever they need to do?
They
You know,
can do what they need to do to maintain, repair, or replace
okay,
without substantially changing or enlarging,
without going through the commission.
without coming to us.
Okay.
And that's true of both utility services, which include, you know, electricity, gas, sewer, water, cable, phone, and other communications.
Yep.
And it also includes maintenance, repair, and replacement of storm drainage.
Right. And that's so they don't get tied up if
Right,
an event happens that needs to be fixed immediately.
right. And
Okay.
there's also a separate emergency exemption here.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? I'm just wondering about the word substantially. What are the restrictions on substantially?
That would
You
be
know,
up to the commission to decide if they believe it's not substantial, if it doesn't fall within, the term not substantially, but it would sort of mean a large amount or the majority of it to the point where it's, clearly a different intention.
Okay, so someone who's presenting a case to you could not use the argument to find substantially. And they could say, we're not doing a substantial change here or alteration.
Right. They'd have to,
And we defend substantially.
yeah, they'd have to convince us that they were not doing a substantial alteration.
Okay.
I mean, the primary reason for this is to allow, whether it's town staff working on water and sewer and gas, or the electric utility or the phone company working on their facilities, to be able to make changes, repairs, and maintenance, so long as they're not substantially changing those facilities or enlarging those facilities. And and fundamentally, it's a necessary exemption. We don't want to see every modification that
Right.
Wakefield Gas and Light is going to be making to power lines, just because they happen to be close to Lake Quannapowitt, for example. So I think you've captured what we want.
I did have a question about this one: maintenance, repair, replacement, and improvement of existing lawfully located public storm drainage conveyance and management systems. This one so Ethan, would this come to the Conservation Commission? I mean, if it involves drainage and stormwater management in a wetland buffer resource area.
Are you talking about today?
Yeah. Well, this is
I'll take a look.
okay. Yeah, this is another one of my ones to clarify here. I mean, this was in the language, but okay.
I feel like like for example, we have maybe outdated stormwater systems, they're only designed for 2-year floods. So if the town wants to put in, a bigger, I guess, stormwater culvert or something like that, that's, you know, designed for a 10-year storm, I think they would have to come to us for a permit, right? It wouldn't, like, just under the Wetlands Protection Act, right, Ethan?
I think it's like the previous one where you can replace it, but you can't substantially change the size or the location of it. So sometimes replacing it is the same as improving it, but it might not substantially change it. So in that case, it might be exempt, but increasing the size would definitely have to come in front of us.
Okay.
I think this is one that Bill had mentioned because he said that a lot of times replacement isn't going to be one for one. So that's why it says repair or improvement, because that's more of what you'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect that if they're going in to fix a broken storm drain, they will probably add some additional diameter to that drain if they can, if they have space.
Yeah, or usually they'll be required because a lot of existing ones might be too small today to build.
Right.
But increasing the size of the drainage structures would have to come before us.
If they're within a resource, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Within all resource areas, including buffer area, maintenance and improvement of existing lawfully located public roads and sidewalks, provided the work is conducted according to the Wetlands Protection Act list of exemptions under 2B. And I think this is also includes utilities.
Mm.
Okay. All right, this was Bill's addition here.
Mosquito
Okay.
control project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see an issue with that.
Okay. Okay, just some minor changes here. Other exemptions, these are more of the types of exemptions that like a homeowner or business might be applying for. Maintaining, repairing, replacing existing building structures, walkways, driveways, provided that the footprint is not increased, it said remains the same.
Yeah.
We had the question about provided there is no heavy equipment within 50 feet of the resource area, and the question was, what is heavy equipment? Different sources, consider, pounds per square inch of between 3 and 5 to be, lightweight. So I kind of picked the middle value. Wetlands Protection Act actually uses a PSI of 3, which is even more lightweight, but that's within wetland areas. And here we're talking about buffer area. So I wouldn't think the standard would have to be quite as strict, but I think places usually use between 3 and 5 PSI.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, Ellen and I talked about
Yeah, okay.
Possibly, specifying a 3-year look back on kind of grandfathering in landscaped areas. We do grandfather landscaped areas, but I think with probably a look back window. So if it was landscape in the 70s and it's been wild since, you don't grandfather it in, it's based on the most recent 3 years. Was it landscaped? Okay. Okay, there's question about fencing. Okay, the WPA doesn't have a minimum distance to the wetland for fencing or minimum height off the ground, and the WPA allows stone walls and stacks of cordwood as exempt. which we're not doing here with fencing. So for this, I put, I left this here. It does not constitute a barrier to wildlife movement, but I changed this to e.g., for example, the fence is greater than 6 inches from the ground, which sets an expectation but doesn't commit us to that standard. And so I think would allow us some flexibility in assessing whether the fencing constitutes a barrier to wildlife movement.
You'd want to say the bottom of the fence is more than 6 inches, I would think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we had a comment here about okay, conversion of lawns, decks, sheds, walkways, patios, pools.
Are we accepting paved walkways here too, Jennifer?
I don't think, I mean, this was language we spent time on last time, and I don't think we wanted to specify that. But I think this includes paved walkways.
That seems to me it would.
Yeah. Okay. There was a question about discharge pipe, provided the activity, including discharge pipes, is located more than 50 feet from the mean annual high water line of the vernal pool, etc. So I just put drainage system. That's a term that the WPA uses a lot. It also doesn't define, but I think it's more specific because I don't think we want to be exempting just any kind of discharge. But stormwater drainage. So I changed this to drainage system.
In the WPA, does it specify 50 feet from the mean annual high water line of vernal pool? Intermittent stream, sorry, for number 4.
Mm-hmm.
It does say that?
No,
I'd love to remove that vernal pool thing because
this one here, why?
Well, I don't think
Oh, to protect the vernal pool habitat.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, you already say up above that like lawn area is exempted. I think this just makes it confusing to now, it's like contradictory because you're creating this 50-foot distance, but then we said vernal pool habitat should be no disturb.
well, I think so. We define the vernal pool habitat as extending 100 feet out from the mean annual high water line, but I think in reality, from kind of looking at those, the potential vernal pools in town, a lot of the potential ones anyway, a lot of times they're not completely surrounded by, um, you know, um, natural, unmodified, unaltered area. So I think when we have proposals come to us that are about vernal pools, I think a lot of times I think some of that habitat is already going to be converted. And I don't know. And I mean, that's something, yeah, to think about is, do we want to protect, if half the vernal pool habitat is a golf course, do we try to protect that, or do we just say, hey, it's already a golf course, you can.
Okay, you know what, you're okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't disagree with leaving it what it is if it's been converted. On the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how I feel about converting lawn adjacent to a vernal pool to a paved walkway.
Well, if a paved walkway that's 50 feet from,
The high water line of the vernal pool. Okay. All right.
yeah. But I mean, I'll send
In
this.
fact, we're dealing with small properties here for the most.
Yeah. right.
Also, I'm guessing there aren't that many vernal pools in people's lawns. Maybe on the edges in some cases,
Right.
but
Okay.
all right.
All right, so I'm just highlighting this language again as potentially something to go into the regs. Okay. Okay, so Eleanor and I discussed vista pruning. Okay, so we're still on the exemptions, and this is basically the exact wording of, I put this in here, the exact wording of the Wetlands Protection Act, vista pruning. But I think, you know, a rationale for putting it in, even though it's word for word, is that it's often sort of, I think, understood or misinterpreted. So it's an opportunity for us to reiterate to people what vista pruning is and what the limitations of it are.
And pruning of landscaped areas is not subject to jurisdiction.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, Eleanor, you're on mute.
Sorry, thank you. Can we add parentheses, the trimming of lower branches? To I think it defines it later on in the WPA.
Oh, okay.
The
all right.
like vista pruning parentheses,
Yeah.
the trimming of lower branches. Yeah. And we can take that because, yeah, it's not kneecapping all the wetlands vegetation along a wetland.
Yeah. Okay. And, you know, I do think, well, under the WPA already, this would apply to Lake Quannapowitt as a BVW, but I wanted to check that against other people's impressions that Lake Quannapowitt would be a BVW as a lake that borders on a river, the headwater of a river. So, you know, for Ethan or Paul in particular, or Eleanor, anyone.
Sorry, I was looking up vista pruning in WPA. It's very specifically defined.
Mhm.
So can you go back over this one again?
Yeah, so just a check for myself that vista pruning would apply. So vista pruning is within a riverfront area or a bordering vegetated wetland, and the BVW would make that applicable to Lake Quannapowitt, which would be the BVW, the lake that borders on a river.
I don't know.
Isn't a pond? Oh, it's a great pond. Isn't a pond a wetland? No.
I think if like a pond doesn't have BVW, then there's nothing to vista prune. I think that's the idea here.
What do you mean there's nothing to vista prune?
Like that's what the WPA says. That's why they have it as bordering vegetated wetland instead of like the pond or the river.
If it's not vegetated, then there's nothing to.
I don't
Sort
know.
of.
You're saying a pond is not vegetated? There's still a bank, and that's a resource.
I think with the WPA, if there's no vegetation on the bank, then that sort of means the whatever you're vista pruning, 50 feet away is sort of not connected to that system in the same way as it would be if it was like BVW filling that empty space.
Oh, in other words, okay.
Yeah. It's like you
So
can
you
prune something,
Yes.
40 feet from the lake
Right.
if
Like,
it's just lawn space between there.
okay, yes, you can prune your trees, but that would be like in landscaping. Right? But you're not supposed to like cut down the trees on the bank to get a better view.
Yeah, so vista pruning's exempt when it's 50 feet or more from those resources. For the reason to protect the more of the BVW based plants rather than just the grass lawn. Yeah, because the WPA allows pruning of landscaped areas no matter the distance.
Right. But Jennifer, any lake or pond is explicitly listed as an area subject to protection under the Wetlands Protection Act.
In terms of asking about confirmation of the BVR, it looks like, yeah, 310 CMR 10.55. It does definitely confirm that it is. BVM, sorry.
BVW?
BBW.
BVW, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
It took us
Yeah.
forever
Slowly.
to learn. No,
Slowly.
you found it. Wow, good.
Yeah, it seemingly does fit all the criteria, the 3 criteria that it needs.
Okay.
Okay. Lake Quannapowitt meets the criteria for BVW.
Okay. There was one other thing, Jennifer, I noted as I was looking for vista pruning in the DEP regs. They specifically call out minor activities that are not subject to regulation include unpaved pedestrian walkways less than 30 inches wide for private use. So they very specifically call out unpaved there.
Okay. All right. Which number was that again?
Their exemptions.
This maintaining, repair, and conversion of walkways. And what section are you finding that in?
Unpaved. This is Wetlands Protection Act 10.02B.
Yeah, I know what section you're talking about.
2A.
B, 2. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll find that there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
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 We go on to where we were.
Okay. All right. Not a lot of changes here. I made some. Okay. I made some small edits to this section, factors the commission will consider in reaching a decision. I wanted to explicitly refer to the performance standards. So this language, refers specifically to the performance standards. And not just does the work avoid, minimize, mitigate.
Okay.
But the work should meet the performance standards.
Where are the performance standards now?
They're a bit lower.
They're sorry?
They're a bit lower down.
Further down here. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so these sections were removed or just moved by
elsewhere.
Bill. Yeah. Okay. Okay, some edits to the performance standard section. This is some language, I think, buffer area. This is language Eleanor and I worked on regarding the buffer area. Essentially, this is just a presumption. It's just saying the buffer area is important to the wetlands values. And then we introduce the the no disturb here. Just some small edits that it's the first 25 feet of the buffer area or riverfront area from the wetland boundary. I don't know about kind of this language. I might say for wetlands defined in section 2A.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So this vernal pool, first of all, there wasn't a performance standard in this. And second of all, it was sort of a different definition of vernal pool that went against our presumption of a vernal pool, I think. So I took it out. We have the vernal pool habitat, which does include both the vernal pool and the buffer area for the vernal pool. It starts with the presumption, we presume that all areas meeting the definition of vernal pool habitat perform essential functions. I added, we have our previous language about we may require the applicant to maintain a strip of continuous undisturbed vegetative cover. And then to that, I added, in addition to the 25-foot no disturb, just so that it's really unambiguous that there is a 25-foot no disturb there around the vernal pool itself. Okay. Okay, riverfront area, no changes. Bill commented on this, and this has just been back and forth for, I think, the entire time we've been working on this, that, just Bill thinks that we shouldn't have this in here if we don't have stricter performance standards, but I think we've consistently landed on wanting to have it be within our jurisdiction. Okay, this was stormwater review was an addition by Bill referring to making reference to the stormwater bylaw that Wakefield now has. Okay. I thought about adding a performance standard saying that, areas like the new areas, intermittent streams, vernal pools, isolated wetlands, ponding area, of any size would not be filled, but I actually thought that was covered in the jurisdiction section, so I didn't put that here because I thought it would be redundant. I can scroll back if you want to see it, but essentially that's the language of section 2 jurisdiction. Would you like me to scroll back, or the question is, do we need a performance standard that says don't fill the intermittent streams, vernal pools? And ultimately I thought we didn't need to because it is in there. Okay. It's in section 2 jurisdiction. Okay. I added a little bit more language to the mitigation section. So the shown in green here, the commission may authorize or require replication of wetlands as a form of mitigation. Only with specific plans, adequate security, professional design, and monitoring to assure success because of the high likelihood of failure. This is from, it's not word for word, but it's essentially from the MAC model bylaw.
And you stepped it up to 1.5 times now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mitigation measures may be included as a condition. In most cases, the minimum area of replication must be at least 1.5 times as large as the area of the original resource.
And is 1.5, you said what MAC uses?
1.5 is what I wrote down from our last meeting where we went back and forth on 1.5 versus 2. And I think Ethan thought that 1.5 was the more typical standard.
In the riverfront, the standard under WPA is 2 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
generally you'll see 1.5 more often.
Right,
1
but
to 1.5.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
if riverfront's already 2 to 1, do we want 2 different replication standards or?
Riverfront tends to be separate to the rest of the wetland resources. I think this is more so restoring and replicating a vegetated wetland.
Last time when we were talking about this, I made a note I found in the Ipswich Wetlands Protection Bylaw. They use the language of at least 1.5 square feet of replication for every 1 square foot of vegetated wetlands altered. The 1.5 to 1 formula for replicating bordering and non-bordering vegetated wetlands is based upon the Commission's desire to achieve a no net loss. The Commission reserves the right to waive or increase this requirement depending on the circumstances of the individual permit application. I thought that was a pretty good way to word it.
Okay.
I think adding that waiver increase makes sense. I would delete the first 3 words in most cases and just simply say the minimum
Okay.
must be.
Okay. Can I get that language again, that last sentence?
Yeah, it says the Commission reserves the right to waive or increase this requirement depending upon the circumstances of the individual permit application.
The individual circumstances of the
circumstances of the individual permit application, I think is what.
Yeah.
the circumstances of the individual permit application. All right.
That's helpful language.
I thought it was
Thank you.
a very good way to word it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Okay. We have our waiver, which there's no change to. I didn't make any changes. Expiration of permit. Let's see. Okay, I didn't make any changes here. Okay, we had a regulation section, and I basically kind of rewrote this section modeled off of what's, this is a big sticking point for in terms of the feedback that we've gotten from Bill Renault, for example, about what goes in the bylaw, which requires a vote at town meeting versus what goes in the regulations, which only requires a vote of the commission itself. And so this is something that has gotten a lot of attention. And is, yeah, sort of make or break for some people's support of the bylaw. So, I think where we've been landing is to have the performance standards in the bylaw, not in the regs, so we can't just sort of change the performance standards ourselves. That has to be approved in town meeting.
Right.
But things that we might put in regulations that we could change ourselves through a vote or through a process would be, and this describes the process, and this is modeled after what the stormwater bylaw does, which I think Bill wrote. We may adopt and periodically amend regulations relating to procedures and administration, but not performance standards of the bylaw, by majority vote of the commission after conducting a public hearing, details on how that would take place. The regulations which the commission may adopts may describe submittal requirements for applications, submittal requirements and procedures for administrative approvals. Again, those times when people come to us and say, I don't know if this requires review or not, and the fee schedule. I didn't think of anything else.
I think those are the fundamental administrative tasks. You're right.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay, and I think those are the last changes, to the bylaw. So there's still a couple of, things left to clarify. I think a lot of the regulations, is actually kind of cutting things out of the regulations that are just copied from the bylaw. And there's a lot that's in our last draft of the regulations from January that I think we've talked about wanting to pull out because they're redundant. So I think the regulations are going to be paring down and, you know,
They're just basically
specifying
going to be those three matters now.
pretty much.
That's fair. And I like the
Um,
addition of that clause at the bottom.
okay. So I think a little bit more work. I can send this around just so you guys have a copy and can be kind of reviewing some of these. You know, there's certain issues that obviously are kind of big decisions,
Yeah.
consequential.
I think you've done a really good job of putting in a pretty balanced and fair approach here.
Yeah, I think when we're reaching the point of voting on this, I think we'll kind of want to know where the consensus is on some of those things, like the size of isolated wetlands.
Yeah,
Um,
that may be our biggest single decision that we still have facing us.
but you know, also I would say just be looking over. I mean, I think the main issues are here, and the question is just what's the exact wording and standards that we set ultimately agree on.
Okay.
Are you happy with the performance standards, or do you think those need more work?
No, the main thing with the performance standards that I just went back and forth with is do we put in the performance standards not to fill some of these areas? And I ended up not putting anything in because it's really just a repeat of what's in the jurisdiction where it says, you know, except as permitted, no person shall remove, fill, dredge, build upon, degrade into the following resource areas. Vernal pool, intermittent stream. I mean, do people have thoughts about that? Whether you want a specific performance standard that says don't fill, et cetera, intermittent streams, vernal pools?
I think so, because the Wetlands Protection Act says you can fill it as long as you've obtained a permit. And then I think typically like the performance standard is, I don't know, like you replicate or there's just no protection or, you know.
You don't think this is protective enough then, Eleanor?
No, because you're saying you can't do it without a permit.
Right.
You can still do it. You just need to come and get a permit from us.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, are there other performance standards that you think are?
I don't know where I got this, but I'll share it with the group. The performance standards that I found in my files. I think Rebecca must have had them. It's kind of a cheat sheet. But it's helpful. It just takes the WPA performance standards.
So, just kind of a reminder overview. Vernal pools have a 25-foot no disturb, 100-foot habitat, which the whole thing or part of it could be protected. Isolated wetlands have a 25-foot no disturb. Intermittent streams have a 25-foot no disturb. And a ponding area of any size does not have any no disturb, but we don't want them being filled in because can lead to sort of flooding problems because these provide storage. They don't really provide necessarily habitat, but they provide water storage. So this doesn't have a no disturb around it to protect habitat, but we don't want it being filled. So those are the the standards for these. And are you looking for a certain performance standard element?
No, I was just gonna send, I thought it's a helpful cheat sheet
Okay.
on the WPA ones.
Okay. Well, I can, just send this as is with the comments and,
Yep.
we can come back next time. And you all can, any other comments that you have, I guess bring to the next meeting, I suppose, or,
Well, I think as a new person, going through the bylaws is a really good study for me. And I applaud the edits that you've made because it does make it more clear as a newbie. And I look forward to seeing these changes that you're going to send around because that's what I've been looking at for the last couple of weeks, is trying to wrap my mind. Now, the WPA is another challenge for me as well. You seem to be able to quote that pretty easily. So,
well,
but I think this is a
certainly
great
have to-
study.
Yeah, thank you. I certainly have to go look at it a lot and say, what does it say?
No, it's good work. I mean, you're referencing what you're doing, and I think that's very important. I think it's a very good exercise for me to have to refer back and see what you've done. Your work. I understand what you're doing.
I think it's also, a very careful overview and review of what we had done and some additional work that was needed to be done here. So thanks, Jennifer. I think you
Yeah,
done.
thank you.
And Eleanor too. for the
And
input.
both of you then. Thanks.
Thank you both. Thank you both.
Welcome.
Next step then is you're going to be circulating this to all of us, Jennifer,
Yeah.
and then we should take it up. You're going to be making further edits, and then we'll take it up at the next. Should we put it on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Done.
Do we want to talk about, I don't know, we've talked about sort of updating the bylaw website with like the map and,
We have a map?
well, the one that shows how Wakefield is,
Oh,
an outlier like that. That's very powerful. And also we had asked a couple months ago to include the sample forms that just kind of show that you can use the same forms for the wetlands, for both. You don't need two sets of forms. Because that's another myth that's been going around, is that, we're going to subject applicants to completing two different applications.
Oh, yeah, that could be, put into the regulations too.
What's that? Oh,
That could be in the regulations, what the current form policy is,
okay.
use the WPA forms versus.
right. I mean, I think that's the easy way to do it, is to simply say in the regulations that we're going to be making use of the WPA forms.
Yeah, but it helps if people can go onto the website and see it, because a lot of times people
Well, aren't they already there?
No.
No.
I mean, like, That you would just, oh, you mean like the standard forms? Yes, I guess.
Yes,
Um,
we're
yeah,
not changing them.
no, I mean, you need the, a Wakefield naming convention, but you can make it equal to the wetlands,
Right.
the WP, like the DEP numbers.
I think what you could do is once we finalize the bylaw, make a web page with all this information so that once we start doing the outreach, it's all in one place. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I don't know why we have to wait because there's certain things like seeing the map and sort of sample forms of how you would use, how we would do it. I think Elaine had something where I can go back and look at um, my emails would just be helpful that there's really no difference. Um, um, but to your point, you could also just do a sort of graphic showing it's the same form and you just, we have two different numbers or two of the same numbers there and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
You're
share
going-
this is the map that Eleanor's referring to, where that's kind of Wakefield hanging out by itself without a bylaw and all the communities in green bylaw.
Yeah, you weren't kidding. We're surrounded.
That's right.
Yeah, but that's a powerful thing because people say, "Oh, we don't need it. We're fine,"
Right. No, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's easy enough to put that up there, I think.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's a great idea. I think a lot of people don't have any knowledge that this is, even an issue. So putting out as much stuff as possible to kind of get the general public in the know is phenomenal. So I agree, definitely.
Can I ask a question on that site? Would you sort of take people through the process? Would you explain? I think sometimes, giving people level setting expectations up front eliminates a lot of discourse and unhappiness later on.
They take them through the process, Barbara. Are you
Okay.
referring to
I haven't been
process
there.
of
Shame
making
to
an
say.
application or?
Just what the process is likely to be. I mean, the majority of cases that you see, there's sort of a pro
Right.
forma.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, we do have a description for the different types of permits,
Okay.
links to them as well as a brief description of the process. That's all on the website.
I will go to the website tomorrow.
Yeah. It would be good to get your perspective, Barbara, because I think, it's hard to navigate for people who are sort of probably unfamiliar with it and trying to gain information because we have it organized in kind of terminology that makes sense to, if you're in the wetlands like business, but for like a homeowner, it's not so user friendly. So I think, I think that would be valuable to get your perspective on how, we could share information more effectively.
I'd be delighted. I'm going to go there anyway. So if I have any thoughts on it, I would be glad to share them for sure.
You'll see that on the forms and policies page. It says here, read an overview of the Wetlands Protection Act and Wakefield's application process. And then there's a whole series of links that'll take you through all sorts of the permits, the hearings, the schedules, the fees, all that sort of stuff.
Do you have many people who are confused when they get there or call for help or, do you have to handhold a lot of people or people just kind of can go to the website and they're figuring it out pretty easily?
Usually people are either just submitting it to me or just reaching out to me as a first step. There's not too much. Usually they just reach out to me directly and say, here's what I want to do. What do I have to do? Because depending on their site, it might be a different type of permit, also asking, is it going to be an RDA or an NOI? How long is this going to take? What sort of information do you need? So that's a good part of that's what's on our website, but it's all very just particular to our town and this commission and the person's home. So
Well,
mostly
you're
they just
the
reach
front
out to me
line.
directly.
You are on the front line. So, thank heavens.
Yeah, it's always good to have that too, because by the time it gets to the commission, I've sort of worked through every scenario or every question that's come up with the site.
Okay. Anything you want to add, Jennifer or Eleanor, to what we discussed tonight on the bylaw?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think we're getting pretty close to the end where we will need to sort of be kind of making those decisions on those kind of
Which is a good
questions,
thing.
those big
Yeah.
Yep.
those big questions hanging out there.
Okay.
I'll send the link to I'll send a copy of the presentation that compares like 12 communities, and then I think I have information on like 9 communities, but ultimately we're gonna have to pick something that makes sense for Wakefield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And we did, Jennifer and I did talk about how, some of the comments we've gotten over the months are a little like redundant. Like we think we've put something to bed. And so that it probably makes sense to just list out all the comments and, whether we took them or didn't take that, you know what I mean? Why we weren't taking them or where we landed.
Yeah.
Uh,
Fair enough.
yeah, I think that would be really,
I think
yeah,
ultimately some kind of responsiveness summary makes sense here. Yes.
yeah.
yeah.
Whether we do it when we first post it or whether we do it after between when we've posted it and when we take it to town meeting, which probably makes more sense. That way, any of the other comments that come in the next multiple months will
Right. And I think the
be
big
addressed.
thing is just working through some example slides of what homeowners could expect. How will this impact me? And I think Ethan had offered to do that a while back.
Yeah, that's gonna vary based on what the bylaw ends up saying, I think. So we can definitely make a good amount of those once we finalize the language.
Yeah. Okay. Anything further for tonight? Then perhaps we need a motion to adjourn. We'll take this up again at our meeting in 2 weeks. I don't think we need a meeting in between, do we? Okay, you'll be circulating this to us and we'll work through it and I'll be prepared to come back with comments and thoughts to try to wrap it up. Okay.
I just wanted to quickly say thank you to all of you who have helped me so far, sent me reams of reference materials. And
A little bit of a fire hose sometimes, Barbara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful. I'm going to have a personal reading period where I get to study all this quietly and try and absorb it so that I can use it with you.
We've
But
all had a head start on you. We've been at this for varying lengths of time, but a couple of years at least for all of
oh,
us.
wow. Well, I hope to catch up with you before 2 years.
Well, I walked into this with a commission that was members who'd been there for 30 years in a bunch of cases when I first joined. So we're a very different group from what I joined into.
Well, I'm encouraged because you all seem very committed and informed, and you're the future.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
I think we're grateful you and Drew both have joined us. 'Cause it's nice to have a larger group to work on these things together and also to put some different thoughts to it that perhaps we don't necessarily come up with. So
Yeah.
Takes
Been
a
kind of
village.
running on a shoestring, it feels like, for probably, I guess, a year, because it's been 3 of us
Yeah.
for a year. And so I
yeah,
think
that's
we'll
true.
be able to do more and kind of interesting
Yeah.
things having a
Yeah.
larger group. Yeah. So
Yeah, we've definitely put some things on the back burner, but now with 2 new people, if you guys have interests in particular things, I definitely have a knotweed presentation I'd put on the back burner, but now that spring is coming, like
Right.
You think
That's up
spring
my
is,
alley.
I was
timely.
gonna say, you think spring is coming?
Well,
I looked out the
had a
window
couple-
this morning, it was snowing.
It
Yeah,
was.
it was.
So
Okay.
excellent. Thank you.
Shall we wrap up for tonight?
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn then, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And a
Second,
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Drew,
aye.
Yeah.
Eleanor,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Gertie, Jennifer,
yes.
and I vote yes. We are adjourned. Thank you all. We'll see you in 2